The 140th continuing resolution in the last 30 years, everyone agrees that this was the most damaging. Anybody who does analytics on this, the answer is all the same. It is the worst that we've ever seen. So the most common narrative in the popular press is how many federal employees missed a paycheck. But the real impact is down in the contractor workforce. We think that the ratio of employees in DoD to prime contractors is about 1 to 1, and we think it's about 3 to 1 if you go all the way down through the value chain. So when we start thinking about the impact of shutdowns and we look at the top 5 firms, they report that they've got a backlog of about $640 billion at the time of the last shutdown, which works out to about 58 months of revenue for them. So if you've got coming up on 6 years of backlog and the government shuts down for a while, well, that's not great, and that has real impact, but that's really kind of a nuisance. We've done a bunch of studies over the years. One of the things we've gotten interested in is trying to understand small business. But we think there's about 5 million contractor employees funded by DoD spending. So small business has got disadvantages even when times are good. So if you're a small business, you are risk concentrated. You don't have 100 customers who are each 1% of your business. You've got much more risk concentration than that. You're probably running shorter projects, which means you have less backlog. We've done a bunch of studies on regulatory burden. A given regulation is going to cost small business at least 10 times more by any measure that you want to measure it on. It's going to cost at least 10 times more than a regulation on a large company. So the small business in the defense industrial base is particularly vulnerable by this multiplicative effect on regulation. Here's another way to think about it. Most of the top 100 see a minority of their own employees impacted. So the top 100, though, does not flow their backlog down to their first and second tiers. The first and second tier is more impacted. All total, I think it's something like 2.4 million people are not getting paychecks versus about 800,000 DoD civilians who were not getting paychecks. And what that shows you, I think makes sense, is that the damage from shutdowns is compounding. It's exponential. The longer it goes, the worse it gets. 72% of federal workers reported high anxiety. Now that's interesting because they know they're going to get paid eventually, right? But if you're living from paycheck to paycheck and you're a single mom and you're being asked to come to work and you have to pay for daycare and you're not getting paid, probably doesn't make you feel the most optimistic that you've ever felt. You know, everything small business depends on: small business loans, tax-free funds. And remember that your people don't get the makeup pay like the federal workers do. That leads then to terminations, right? I can't afford workers, so I can't afford a payroll staff, so I fire my payroll clerks. Loss of benefits, people lose their health. And so one of the things that I thought was interesting, if you read a bunch of the news stories around this, what really motivated a couple of the Senate Democrats to cross the aisle and vote to end the shutdown was suicides in their state. If you go look at estimates on the shutdown damage of the government, you're going to see the last one, people are going to give you numbers somewhere between 10 and $20 billion of damage to the federal government. And those are direct government costs. What I've been trying to demonstrate to you is the damage in the defense industrial base is bigger than that. So they don't get their catch-up pay. A lot of people lost their pay and benefits. And so, especially in small business where I've got a smaller backlog, I got more furloughs, my cost of capital goes up. So we think the cost to industry, and a lot of it is focused down in the smalls, is about $50 billion. So how do you quantify that? Well, that is roughly equivalent to wiping out the defense businesses of Boeing and RTX combined. We have wiped out in our defense industrial base, while we are trying to increase defense production, the equivalent of two of our largest primes.